Hi, Stu.
Hi, Em. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm all right. This is the part where you asked me to tell everyone what we're doing.
Yeah, would you like to tell people what we're doing?
Yes, I would. So this is a performance that we did for the Nursery Theatre on the 24th of October 2020. And it was part of the Duos showcase because we did a Duos course, which was really good fun. Now, the the run up to this particular performance was a little bit fraught because somebody, namely you, had something else that you were doing previously, and so wouldn't be arriving until exactly the moment that the performance began. Do you just want to explain what you were doing?
Yeah, I have no idea what I was doing. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, no, I do. I was doing Women of Improv Worldwide Jam with my other team, Boss Birds. And so we had a Women of Improv Worldwide Jam, which finished around the same time as this show was beginning. So I jumped on about 2 minutes before we went on air.
Yes, and I was not confident that you would appear, through no fault of your own. But I'm like, okay, at what point do I go start doing this on my own? But thankfully, that was not necessary.
Yeah, I was there. So Lloydie introduced us and we took no suggestion. And as soon as our cameras turned on, we began the scene.
And we channeled some of what was going on in real life into the action, that's fair to say.
Yeah, that stuff comes out in improv.
But I like to say what I see.
Yeah, I like to say how I feel. So there you go. We both do. So there you go. That blend of real life into improv is valuable.
Yes.
So shall I press play?
Yes.
Hiya, love. You all right? You made it back then?
So,
Look at your looming face.
my new face scare. So I obviously try not to plan an improv, but in my mind, you, the improviser, had been off somewhere doing something else. So I wanted to incorporate that into the scene. So that's kind of, I think that's where the idea of you having been out doing something else, that's where it came from, because you had been out doing something somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, out in the virtual sense, not out.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh, that's so clever. I had no idea where that came from. So that's really interesting. You were influenced, yeah, by what I had actually been off doing something else. That's so cool. Can I ask you about your camera angle? Because I know that this is something that you do, and you also teach and you encourage others when you teach to mess with camera angles. So yeah, tell me, because I thought that was such an interesting move that you made from the get-go. Like, it was just really nice to see you appear in a not sitting down and coming in at an angle. And I just sort of mirrored that my head movement kind of thing as well. But yeah, was that conscious to come in at an angle?
Yeah, that was very deliberate because much as I've got very tired of one person walking onto a stage, and then the other person walking onto a stage, then talking to each other and walking off again. I've seen a lot of Zoom, and I've seen a lot of people sitting in the middle of Zoom, which is great. It's a great place to be, but it's like, oh, okay, I've seen this a lot. So I thought, well, okay, so if your character had been off somewhere else, I imagined that I'd been amusing myself, and I was imagining that I was a practical man. I am not a practical man in real life, so it's fun to pretend things. But I thought, oh, maybe I've been in the loft. I felt like I'd been in the loft or something. It never came out in the scene, but I thought maybe I've been up in the loft and I don't know, I've been fixing something. I don't know what. And it didn't come up in the scene, so I immediately dropped it. But I thought, yeah, I've probably been up in the loft doing practical things.
Wow, that's so interesting, because of course because it didn't come up in the scene, I had no idea that was your thought process. But it's so great to come in with such a clear physical geographical idea, like you had actually visualized specificity of being in the loft and coming down the loft and seeing seeing my character there. So
Yeah.
I love the specificity of that. That's really cool. Yeah, I had nothing other than I was just mirroring you.
And also you looked like you'd been out. You had makeup on, and it looked like you'd been out somewhere special, and that then informed, I think, what happened next.
Wow. Okay.
I was so sorry I was late.
That's all right. It was a big night for you, and it's fine. You've got to take your time for these things.
Yeah, so that being late thing, that was kind of the truth. I mean, you weren't, but you were almost.
But isn't that so funny? Like, you fully had thought that I might be late for this gig, but I wasn't. I was bang on time. And then, interestingly enough, that was my offer when I replied, "I'm so sorry I was late." Like, I don't know where that came from. I genuinely don't know where that came from. Yeah.
And because I like to play positive relationships, that was fine. You'd been out late, that's fine. I was perfectly capable of amusing myself at home, doing the practical things that a practical man does. I'm glad in the scene that you didn't ask me for the specifics, because it probably involved WD-40, but even then I'm a little bit hazy as to quite what that was.
Great. Cool.
Thank you for...
Awesome. So here we've got this classic example of two improvisers trying to make an offer at the same time. And I am curious as to know what it was that you were going to say.
I'm not sure. I know that I was involved with doing my hand acting. So I'd been doing something that involved something rough. And so, you get that kind of like cream that like men put on their hands when they've been doing, I'm really out of my league here.
Called Swarfiga.
Swarfiga, that's exactly what it was. I was putting Swarfiga on my hands. So I'm not sure what I was going to say there.
Okay, cool. I think I just came in with some sort of general thank you for taking me. Thank you for that surprise. That's what it was. Right. So my offer right here, thank you for it was a great surprise, was just keeping it nice and open here. Like I didn't want to make any strong offers that was too specific, because I think I had a feeling that you had something. And so I didn't want to bulldoze that. I just was like, okay. So none of this is really conscious thinking. It was more like, I'm going to offer something that's like specific and generic at the same time. Like, thank you for the surprise is quite specific, i.e. it's a gift of, I'm gifting you the idea of that there was a surprise, but It was loose enough for the blanks to be filled in.
Yes. And I think the idea of the partner organising for the other partner to see her friends, I'm sure I watched some video, I think it was at the Embodiment Conference, and it was something to do with positive relationships and how giving that sort of gift was actually, I think it was possibly in the context of actually being parents, which we weren't in this scene, but it was like, it was an example of something someone had done that I'd watched recently, and so it was swirling around in my head, so it just popped out that moment.
It was cool. I'll tell you my thinking after your next offer.
I was just going to say thank you for arranging. What a beautiful surprise that was. I didn't expect the violin quartet and the roses and.
Well, cool. So what was brilliant about this moment was that I was trying to nail it into that me and you had done something, our characters had been out, so that you had surprised me with, I don't know, a date night or whatever. Like when I said violin quartet, I was actually, what I had vision in my brain was that me and you had been on whatever date night or something like that in a restaurant. So the surprise was that you'd taken me out to dinner, and there was those people who come and play the violin next to your dinner table. So that was the violin. And of course, thinking about it now, I'm like, well, there's no way that a quartet would play at a dinner table. It's normally like solo violinist, dodgy to say the least.
I'd hire a quartet.
Oh,
You're worth it.
Yeah, it would be worth it. So anyway, I said quartet, but that the vision in my head was me and you had been to dinner together for a surprise night out, hence why I said violin, quartet, and the roses.
Yes.
So and also, of course, like in the offer there, I was kind of saying this was solidifying the idea that, although I think this was clear, but solidifying the idea that this was a romantic night out, that we were we're in a relationship, a romantic relationship. We weren't just like pals, we weren't mates or whatever. So I was kind of just like, just doubling down on that, because that's what it felt like, that was the situation that we were in. It didn't feel like we were just mates.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the vision in my head. I don't know if you want to add anything there before.
Yeah, I think I understood what you were getting at, because I think it was quite clear what you were outlining. And I think because I had this other idea come into my head, I thought I'll use that, because also I felt that we would get into sort of busy work of, okay, so what happened to you after the date? Why were you late? So if we'd been out for this date, you'd gone and then done something else, which meant that you were late.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that seems quite complicated. That seems like we've got a plot monster that we've created, and now we're going to have to feed the plot monster. And the thing about plot monsters is that once they've created, you end up feeding it, and it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So I think I had this idea of something that someone had said to me recently that was a nice thing to do, and I thought, well, that fits. Doesn't fit quite, but I think it fitted close enough.
Yeah. That's so interesting to hear you say that, because I had none of that was in my brain. Like the plot holes there hadn't even entered my head. Like the fact that I'd said, I'm so sorry. You said you're back then, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm late, and then went on to offer the idea that we'd had some sort of surprise romantic dinner.
Yeah.
None of the plot holes there had entered my head. So what I just it didn't even occur to me. So it's awesome. That makes it doubly more awesome, this next line that you say. So you offer this justification.
Yeah, and I think possibly we could have ignored it and it would have been fine, and possibly no one would have thought about it, but I also thought it's nice to just do something that's on the outline of the circle of expectation.
Yeah.
So yes, accepting your offer and build on it would be fine. But is there something else that we can do which kind of fits the fact that's maybe just a little bit more surprising?
Yeah, which it was.
No, you and the girls, you don't get to hang out as often as you used to, because, you're all busy. And I thought, well, if I can give that to you, and I know you love classical music, so yeah, it's brilliant.
So yeah, that was so cool, because at that point, that move you made about endowing the situation with that, I'd had a night off with the girls, and that doesn't happen enough or whatever. It was just so surprising. It was exactly what you say. It was a surprising offer, and it was the best offer, given that it papered over potential cracks in the story, which I hadn't even entered my head at that point. So you kind of like papered over the cracks and made a surprising offer, like all at the same time, and just solidified something. It was like, I think you solidified a dynamic in the relationship as well, right there, like by sort of it's encouraging your partner to go out and do things that are good for her. I think that's kind of like I think that dynamic fed into the rest of the scene big time. So yeah, anything to add?
Yeah, also we learned more about your character. We learned that you work very hard, you've got friends, but you don't see them as often as you should or perhaps would like to.
Yeah.
And that also tells us something a little bit about the relationship, in that my character is aware enough and loves your character enough to go, hang on a second, she needs and wants something, but she isn't being able to do it. I can try and make this happen.
Yeah, facilitate it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's so subtle. Like all of those endowments are just so implicit. They're not explicit, they're implicit. And I just think that's really sophisticated improv. Like you're not like laying it on dead thick. You know what I mean? You're just offering little nuggets and little seeds in a really implicit, subtle way, which I think is a really nice, great way to play.
It's incredible. What was really passing my mind though was like that you weren't there, and actually that's all I wanted. I love the girls; they are brilliant, but we don't do that. I want to do that more with you.
Cool. So my thought process is just before that, during this offer here was bringing it back to me and you, which was like, because I didn't, for me, it's always about the people, not the plot in a way. So I didn't want myself to go down the rabbit hole of talking about the friends or talking about the dinner that we had. It was straight away, it was because those were great offers, but at the same time, it's like, what's happening here in the here and now between these two characters? And so that's why I made that offer, which I think you got anyway. But like that's what was my thought process is just before that line is like, okay, how about me and you? Let's talk about me and you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I felt we'd heard enough about the dinner and the violins and the girls. I didn't want to hear anything more about them. What I thought was interesting was that the character that I played was considerate enough and looked to meet your needs enough that he was able to organise a night out with your friends, and yet somehow hadn't made the connection between the two characters. So I thought that was really interesting, and I felt that told us something about my character. He's really considerate, but not necessarily wise, or he's like very good at being specifically helpful, but rather than not able to look at the bigger picture as a whole. So that's kind of the vibe that I was getting.
That's so nice. Like, that's a really nice insight, because perhaps in retrospect now, like thinking about these two characters, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like exactly what you just said. He's thoughtful enough and cares about her enough to facilitate her seeing her pals and making sure that she had a good night and all of that kind of stuff. But she brought it back to, but I want that with me and you. So that's almost like your character had just missed the picture on that. Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, not always, but sometimes ties in with the very kind of practical man that's very good at finding solutions. And if they're made aware of the problem, they can find the solution, but they perhaps aren't too aware of what the problems are. So once you bring it up, he's like, oh yeah, no, I'd really like that. Let's do that. But maybe he needed that pointing out to him.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. This is deep, man. This is deep.
Well, maybe I'm just, philosophizing after the event. I don't know.
But then I think that you're probably rendering into consciousness stuff that was happening subconsciously. So like, and in milliseconds of time, just with the smallest amount of offer from each of us. And then our brains are so quick, our subconscious is so quick, that you were probably mapping all of that information into that conclusion, but we've only now just articulated it really. Clever stuff.
Concepts and, just carve out a bit of time for me and you.
I'd love that. I think that would be brilliant. I just, when we got together, I just wanted to make sure that you still had time for your other friends as well, because it's important. And, I'll always be here for you, but, I just think friends are important.
They are.
Quick question. So when you said when we got together, blah, 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 I wondered how long did you think we'd been together for?
Quite a long time.
Mm.
Several years
Yeah.
at least. This was just expressing something that going back to teenage years, having friends who dumped their friends as soon as they got a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which perhaps people do when they're older, less.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thinking that don't lose contact with your friends just because you started seeing someone new. I don't know, it's my little bit of advice.
Yeah, chucking all your eggs in one basket and all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that comes with age as well. Idea of like one has to live one's solo life as much as one's relationship life. Like, you just because you're in a relationship, it doesn't mean you should lose contact with or people that you connect with that's nothing to do with the partnership. Like the girls are something to do with her and her life.
Yeah.
And it's important to her. And that should continue.
And also, I think it's important in a relationship for people, to go off and do other things, and and then they have stories to come and share with their partner when they come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at those relationship counsellors, aren't we?
Well, I mean, I'm perhaps the last person that people should come to for relationship counselling, but I have lots of ideas.
Cool.
I'm so stressed out. I'm so stressed.
Yay! Here's the humdinger. So yeah, this is like 100%. I love your one-eyed Popeye freeze face there.
Thanks for drawing attention to that. You're looking good yourself.
Yeah. You looked half cut. Yeah, so this is what we were saying just before about bringing your own stuff into improv scenes. I had no idea I was going to say that line. I think just before that line, I think as an improviser, I was thinking, oh, what next? What's the move? What's the pivot? I think I might have just been feeling a little bit, we've done the first opening, few minutes or whatever. What do I do now? I think that's what I was thinking. And like something that I always come back to as an improviser is how do I feel? How am I feeling? And so that's what came out. I am so stressed, and which is true. So like I didn't consciously decide to say it. My conscious thought was, I need to say how I'm feeling, and my subconscious provided me with the truth, which is I'm so stressed. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Time, and you're right. I don't see them enough, and they are really important. But I don't see you enough either, which to me is more important.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. That's really lovely to hear. And you do so much for so many people, and you give so much.
Yeah.
This is Stuart Moses, the person, talking about Emma Bird, the person.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thanks. I mean, it was funny because like as these two kind of offers came back to back, I was like, oh, this is 100% real. Like this is like 100% real. Like that bit it wasn't an invention on either of our behalves. It was like, I'm stressed and you're saying, yeah, look, you do a lot for others. Do you know what I mean? And it I don't know, I think there's something just totally gorgeous about it. It's like, I don't know, it's just really an odd feeling to improvise and be hearing what's true as well. Like somebody, like we are each holding up a mirror. Like we're holding up a mirror to, this is how it is, Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I love that. If I know something about somebody and we can use it in a scene, I'll always tell the truth.
Yeah.
And
Well, depending on what it is, you don't want
Well,
to.
yeah. Well, obviously, within certain boundaries.
Yeah.
But also with things that are true about me. I love doing that. I love sharing things that I really feel, and having an audience hear that and accept it. We don't get any solutions, but just being able to express it and have an audience accept it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the reasons I do improv. It wasn't. I only discovered that after I've been doing improv for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love doing that.
Yeah. I think it makes it it's a genuine authenticity, isn't it, really? That's like, yeah, this like feels like theatre, it's a reflection. It's really cool.
I want to be there to support you while you do this.
I'm not sure how many more files I can file.
Okay, so I'll just tell you about this. So like, obviously, like that kind of to and fro that we had is obviously true. That's true of my life and blah blah blah. But I wanted also to weave in this fictional world, because these characters are characters. They're not us. We're drawing from truth and us, whatever. But these characters have their own life that's irrespective of us. So I was thinking, oh shit, well, what does she do? Like, what was her job? I don't know what her job is. It's definitely not teaching improv, because that's too true. So it's like, what is the thing? So then I made a classic, like, what I would always coach my students never to do, because I try and coach my students all the time to be really specific. So of course I come up with the most freaking general you can ever come up with, which is, I'm not sure how many more files I can file. Like no one talks about their job like that. I was desperately, at this moment, I was going, what's the name of the company? Think of what's the department that I work in. Like, I was really trying to get my brain to go specific and name the department, name the company, name the specificity of my work. And of course, I was so tired that I just couldn't think of actual specifics. So I just with this ridiculous filing files. That's what I do.
I mean, I recognize everything you're saying, and I do agree. But in this instance, I think it's fine. I think I get the impression it's not really what this character is passionate about. I think she is passionate about it. She'll do it to a really high standard, but it's probably perhaps not what she expected to do with her life. So, how many even the repetition of file and files. I don't know. I liked it. It was sort of a general thing. It didn't have to be specific. I think it was just like, we've all had to file files and we've all hated it.
Yeah.
So I think the lack of specificity in this is actually fine. And also, it's not really about your job. It's about the relationship of the characters. So if you'd been too interesting with what she did and where she worked, maybe that would have taken this off in a different way. So I think it's fine.
That's the point.
I mean, work is just, it's relentless. It's grinding me down.
And I know you're doing something you love, but, I work.
You see, I'm still talking about teaching improv.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's all true. Like, it's all true. Like, there's not one thing was made up right there. Filing files is completely made up. But like, sometimes I feel like, look at my delightful frozen face there.
Let's just ignore the visuals.
Yeah, like, it's true sometimes, and I guess it's true for all people who work. You can love what you do and find it relentless, particularly if you're in a pandemic. So like, this is where we're at. This is what is happening. This is the reality of life, and it comes into the scene. Just honest, back and forth, honest. You love what you do. Yes, I do. I'm tired. Yes, I know. Like, it's all of that. It's all true. It was great, which led to this gorgeous offer, which I want to talk about after.
I worry about you. I just worry about you.
I know. Thank you.
And I'm here to...
And that's Stuart Moses, the person, talking about Emma Bird, the person.
Which is so sweet. It's just such an interesting thing that happened in that moment, like, because obviously I could hear that we were talking truth, not invention, and then you just like whammied with a complete truth bomb, and it really took my breath away. Like, it really, I didn't know what to say, which is why I didn't say anything. And I know that you've said to me about this scene before. You said that the pause was the way I let that moment land was just really cool. Like, you really enjoyed that moment of just, this thing's just actually landing with her. And this is like, once again, a simultaneous improviser and character like existing in the same time and space. You know, it's true for the character as it's true for the improvisers. But I genuinely went, oh, I hear you. Okay. You know, I just heard you like properly. And then, so then literally didn't know what to say. So that's why it landed.
And so you said nothing, and that was absolutely the perfect choice, because I felt that the pace of the scene was maybe a little bit faster than perhaps sometimes we do. And I think from my part, that was partly because I was like a little bit stressed, because I was like, oh, is Emma going to be here? And also I was aware that we were going out live, and also we had 8 minutes. So I was aware that we had perhaps less long than we would normally. And so I think all of that sped up my pace, perhaps faster than I would normally go. So that's fine, but it's nice to have that, and then big pause, and then the big pause has much more impact as a result. So
yeah, huge impact. Yeah, it was great.
I you as much as I can.
Thanks. I've got an idea.
So yeah, so that was a lovely, like, again, support, you know, the character here supporting the character here, but I'm sure it's like improvisers, you know, speaking Stu to Emma speak as well. But I felt in this moment like something happened where the characters just went woof like that and went really, really close. Like, I don't know if you felt that there was like a real like connection at that point between these two characters. Like, it's probably here actually that I almost think, oh, these two characters have been together for a really long time, and it's like they're really that you know that this is like a solid long-term loving relationship where it's like it just felt like these characters had known each other for a really long time. So there was something very connecting about just that little beat, that dialogue there.
Yeah, and that's at the moment one of my favourite things to play is people that have been together for 8 to 10 years, but they still enjoy each other's company. You know, we've said it before, but you're really bored of breakup scenes.
Yeah,
that happens all the time in improv. Let's see people, you know, who still really love each other. Yeah, I love your next move, because it was really good. We'd had that moment of connection. It was really emotionally powerful. And then now we've established that, we've got a firm basis, we can go off and we can have some fun. And we go off and have some fun now.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, I tell you, the thing in my head right here was that it's like it's a pivot move. It's like we've had that moment. What's the next gear? What's the next shift in the scene? And I literally said what I said without having a clue what the idea was. I said, I've got an idea, and I have no idea what this idea is. I don't know. Don't know what it is. I just heard myself say, I've had an idea, and simultaneously thinking, I have no idea. I just don't know.
I mean, but that, what a marvelous choice to endow yourself as having an idea when you have no idea, and trusting that an idea would appear, and that's exactly what happens. And it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. It was literally in the space of me listening to your response that just bought me those milliseconds to come up with something. And also, here's another thing, you know, about improv. It's like if you're in a trusting kind of improvising team or duo or whatever it is, you know that whatever you say at that point is going to be accepted and it's going to be built upon. So this the accept and build is going to happen. So no matter how crap my idea was going to be, I knew that you would make it into something of value.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I came up with this.
Well, I know.
What sort of idea is this?
I know that you don't, like, we don't share the same interest with regard classical music. I mean, and you know that that's my thing, and that's what I love. And I know you're more a kind of the Smiths, you know.
Morrissey is a difficult figure now, but if we discard who he became and think about who he was,
yeah,
Johnny Marr's still great. He's, in fact, in many ways, sorry, talk about the Smiths again.
Yeah, no, don't.
So there are a couple of things here. First of all, I love the Smiths, and we hadn't discussed this beforehand, but you correctly guessed that I would be. So that was, I'm like, oh, Emma's given me the Smiths to play with. I'm going to enjoy this. So that was a really delightful move on your part. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And also it was really lovely changing mood from what we just had. So we were still connected, but now we were off in another direction. And also, and I've noticed I've done this before, is I established that we've had this conversation before. You know, I know that I'm a Smiths bore and that I try and stop going on about the Smiths.
Yeah.
But I just love the Smiths so much. It just overflows. And I get the idea that actually your character doesn't mind. She's not that big a fan, but she doesn't mind. But I think perhaps because she loves him and she appreciates that he loves the Smiths, and sort of, you know, by one step removed, she kind of loves the Smiths because she loves him talking about it or something like that.
Yeah, that was it. That's great. Yeah, the for me the processes was my brain produced the Smiths because I knew that I didn't know, we hadn't discussed it, but I just knew that you would like the Smiths. Yeah, you just seem to be that sort of person. Actually, in fact, I think what it was like at this point my brain was scanning for a specific band or something, and I remember ages ago, I can't even remember what context, you said that you used to be a goth or something like that in the I don't know, maybe it was the 80s or not, but I thought, well, it's pretty likely that Stu would love the Smiths, so that's why I came up, that's why I delivered the Smiths, because one, I just knew that you would know stuff about the Smiths and that you were likely to have been a fan. And as it happens, I actually like the Smiths too, but my character didn't. Like, my character was like, just reiterating, I know we don't share the same interest in music. And I think that was an offer based on calling back something that we'd established earlier, like that classical music was my thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was also fed by that, the earliest, the first offer that you gave, which is I wanted to, you know, you facilitated her to go and see her pals. So you had facilitated, your character had facilitated my character to go and do something that they love.
Yeah.
And so I think that had fed into my subconscious. So I was going to facilitate something that your character loved. Even though we character-wise personally didn't share the same interest, just like perhaps your character doesn't share the girls, the friendship with the girls, that's that's not the character's thing, that's my character's thing. And I wanted to kind of, I think that's where that came from, was like, what can this character do for this character that she doesn't personally share, but she enjoys like giving. So it was a gift. Like your character gifted me the meal with my pals, and
which also happened to have the classical music. So,
yeah.
And then no, it's brilliant. That's neat,
yeah. So in a sense, it's quid pro quo, basically. Like, you know, two people in a relationship who gift each other things that they might not share an interest in, but they'll gift it anyway because they love that person.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So in a convoluted way, that's, I think, where that offer came from.
Fantastic.
Also, I wanted to see you talk about the Smiths.
I am always available. Whoever's listening and watching this, I'm always available for that.
It's just like, I got you and I a concert ticket for, well, it's not.
Yes, okay, right. So I gave you this gift of, I got you a ticket for the Smiths, and then of course remembered that the Smiths disbanded a very long time ago and didn't exist anymore. So that's what led me to this next offer.
I mean, I love this offer, and it's true that the Smiths will never reform because it was very acrimonious, and there's whole chapters in Morrissey's terrible autobiography. But you could have given me a world where they had we could have pretended it's improv. We could have created a universe where the Smiths had reformed. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh no, I should have gifted you that. But yeah, it's just a little funny quirk really of the processes. Was like, I said it, I've got you tickets for the Smiths. I said it, and then I thought, oh shit, the Smiths don't exist anymore. So so yeah, in the world of logic rather than pretend, they actually don't exist anymore. Sorry, Stu, to break it to you, but
what a way to find out. And also your offer was much more interesting, because if it had actually been the Smiths, I don't know where that would have taken us. Whereas having counterfeit things, well, let's see where that plays out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what led me to this offer. It's not really the Smiths.
It's not the Smiths, but it's the Smiths, the lucky likey Smiths.
Are you sure that's what they're called?
And that's Stuart the improviser playing with Emma the improviser. I'm like, I'm not letting you away. I'm not letting you get away with that.
Yeah.
What was that? That? I know what you were aiming for, but what you were aiming for was not what you said.
Yeah. Called it. Yeah, you totally called me on that. I was fluffing buffing those lines like God knows what, because I was like, I was trying to. The Smiths are likey. I was really trying. Like,
I love that. That was much funnier than if you had come up with an actual Smiths tribute name.
Yeah, but
and that just shows how little she liked the Smiths. She couldn't even remember the actual name of the Smiths tribute band because it so didn't interest her, but she bought a ticket because she loves him anyway.
Yeah, so in a sense it worked in the favor of the scene. But yeah, you know, like how some lucky likey bands have got really funny names like the Bootleg Beatles obviously is one, but there's others that they. Can you think of any?
The Strolling Bones.
There you go. The Strolling Bones is so good. There's so many.
No Way Sis. The Oasis tribute, you know.
No Way Sis. Oh my God. So yeah, I mean these bands with clever names exist. These lucky likey bands, but of course the Smiths are likey is.
I mean, it's very descriptive. It's both the name of the band and a description of the band.
Yeah, so I genuinely couldn't think of anything clever at that point, so that's why it came out in that kind of sort of like cocked up way. And I'm so glad you just played with that then, and you went, what? What was that? It was really fun.
Yeah, just check that. I mean, this is an amazing idea, but I think, are they called the Lucky Likey Smiths?
They are in my head. The Lucky Likey Smiths. I bought a ticket for me and you, but for your birthday next week.
I just whacked that in there for specifics, like it's your birthday and it's specifically next Wednesday. So I just love little details like that you just like, if you can just nail that down, like why not, you know, when are you going? Why are you going? What's the special occasion? Yeah, give the why, which I think is really lovely thing to do in improv.
Yeah, it anchors the scene in reality, and it shows that she remembers when his birthday is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that's like something that, and this is not my choice of music, but I want to do that. I want to spend that time with you, and yeah, so that's what we're.
So yeah, again, I just wanted to double down on, like, we have differences within the relationship, but we still work together. And, you know, I think that's a really cool thing, like in life. I think that's great. Like, we honor what the person you're in a relationship with is, like, you honor what they're interested in, because you honor them as a person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I again, it was just like a double down on that concept of these two people are connected, they're close, and they will give things to each other even if they're not personally that interested, but they'll give it anyway. Yeah, because that's what one does, right?
Yeah.
But it led to this next funny little thing as well.
And on Wednesday.
That would make me so happy. When you say they're Smiths looky-likey, does that mean they look like the Smiths? Or do they sound like the Smiths? Or is it? I mean, in many ways, it can be a surprise.
Yeah.
So what was going through your head then? Like, because you were getting really into this, like.
I was just like, Emma's badly described the name of the Smiths band. I'm just going to play with this. I'm just going to talk about this. They call the Smiths looky-likeys, so they're not sounder-likeys. They look like them, but they don't sound like them. Presumably they sound like them as well. I don't know, I just felt that it when you've got a music fan that's obsessed with a band, and I think it's quite a male way of enjoying music. They're really interested in the trivia and the detail, and they want to know what things are. And it comes back to being that sort of practical man. Yeah, I was just having fun at your expense.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I mean, and you know, again, it's like one will hear this in improv coaching a lot, is like, call the thing out, whatever. Like, if there's a mistake, an accident, a mispronunciation, a bizarre concept, call it out, because name it. It's almost like the image that I have in my brain is like you're dangling a bit of catnip in front of a cat, you know, and you kind of going, go on, chase that little shiny unusual thing, tell me more about that shiny thing. And it's a really playful way to improvise, I think.
And also, I had the feeling you had nothing, and that's quite fun to play with sometimes too. It's like, let's ask Emma's character some questions, because I don't think she's got any answers. That'll be fun. She's experienced enough. She'll come up with something, but it'll be fun watching her do so.
Thanks. Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything. You're right. But I did come up with a beauty, which I'm actually quite pleased with. I didn't answer this question, like this kind of like catnip kind of go on. You were kind of baiting me a little bit with the specifics, but I didn't actually have an answer for. I didn't know how to answer those questions, so instead I just didn't answer the question, and instead I made the next game.
They've had really bad reviews from enemy, the lucky likey enemy. It's not the actual enemy, it's like the lucky likey enemy.
Look at the confusion on my face. This is improviser Stuart going, well, I'm sure Emma knows what she's doing, but I have no idea where she's going. I'm just going to hold on, and I hope I can join in again at some point. That point may never come, but never mind. We're having a good time.
That is so funny. Yeah, I just thought, well, hang on a minute. If there's a Lucky Likey Smith, then there's got to be a Lucky Likey enemy. Like, they've had a bad review. I think where I was going with that, with they've had a really bad review. I think what I was thinking when I made that initial sentence was, they've had a really bad review, but I just wanted to share this with you. Like, I wanted to kind of say, this is going to be shit, but the whole point is that we spend time together as a connecting thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I was going with the sentences. Like, yeah, they're shit, but I want to spend that time with you. But as I was saying it, I was like, oh, they've had a bad review, but not by the actual NME. The game of the scene is everything's Lucky Likey at this point. So that's why I said the Lucky Likey enemy. Like, they're just some sort of bootleg music magazine.
Also, I felt this fitted in with your character who just really liked classical music and wasn't really into the Smiths. So she didn't know the name of the Smiths group, or indeed the magazine that had given them a bad review.
That's right. That's right. She's completely ignorant of all of that, the detail. Yeah, you're right.
The look on my character's face is like, I need some facts. You're saying lots of words, but I'm not getting any facts out of this.
Well, it's very nice that you just waited for me to finish that little.
I was going to let you do that for as long as you wanted to, and perhaps slightly longer than you wanted to.
It was basically just a little bit, it was like a comedy bit, of Lucky Likey.
Yes.
I thought it was a beautiful, it was such a fun game to play, and I could hear Lloydie laughing in the background as well, which was kind of sweet. But yeah, the Lucky Likey enemy. There you go.
Which is like the bootleg version of NME magazine. Like, they've had a really bad review in there, but I just want to spend the time with you, because
so I got there in the end. I just want to connect with you. That's what my character was saying to your character. No matter how shit the band is and how shit the review of the band is, I want to spend the time with you. So I was heading. That was where I was heading.
And also, you did a kind of a pointing thing, and I didn't realise that I mirrored you. I was also you sort of did a pointing thing to emphasise your point, and I also did a pointing thing. Like, I was just like, okay, we're pointing now. I don't really know what we're saying, but I'm going to point as well. I'm on board. I don't know where the ship's going, but I'm on board that ship.
That's great. I mean, it's interesting to hear you say, like, at this point you were following. So you as an improviser could see that I had something, and that I was leading this little bit, this section, and that decision to just follow at that point is awesome, because I think a lot of people might put their pressure on their own shoulders, that they have to lead all the time in improv or whatever, or maybe that's their natural propensity or whatever to lead. But this is also a really good example of an improviser just going, okay, she's got something. I'm just going to hold on. Like you say, I'm just going to wait for this. I'm just going to follow wherever Emma's going. Do you know what I mean?
I was just enjoying the show, and I'm like, I don't know how long we're going to get there, but I'm just going to enjoy you getting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and also for me, improv is about the dance. It's about the give and take. And it's about, you lead for a bit and then you follow for a bit, and it's that switching between the two that I love. So yeah, you go for it. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, it's fab. And also a seed was dropped here that comes up later, which just kind of buttons the end of the scene. So this little phrase reappears at the very end. So I was pleased with that little dance.
And it's really lovely, because this seems a slightly silly bit, which I'm all on board for, but then, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I'm stressed and I love my friends, but I love you more.
Just coming back to feelings there. So I was like, we'd gone off on a little wee journey, like a little laugh about Lucky Likey, this, that, and the other. And it was like, this is the truth of the character's reality. It's like, she's doing all this because she wants to spend time and she's stressed and she wants a bit of us time, So again, classic kind of like default Emma move, Emma the improviser move is like, how do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? Just come back to that.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. Well, if you can get time off from the final, if you can
Yeah.
get someone to cover it, that'd be brilliant. And maybe we'll go and sit by the cemetery gates, read some Keats and Yeats.
Lucky likey.
Go on, Stu.
So I didn't want it to be a game of naming Smith's lyrics or titles, but I thought, well, Cemetery Gates is my favourite Smith song. It seemed to fit, and it's there for the fans. And if you're not a fan, it just seems the thing that I'm suggesting that's a little bit arty, and perhaps the Smiths would like.
Yeah, it was so funny this moment in the moment, because I was like, what the heck? Because I didn't know that was a Smiths song reference. It just seemed to be like it seemed like your brain had just jumped into this really obscure idea that these two characters like to sit at cemetery gates reading poetry. Like, I actually took it as a literal thing. Like, this couple, that is something in their history.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I was reading that, because I didn't know the reference at all. So I even though, so in my brain I was like, oh, that's an interesting move. But I also accepted it as like, okay, I'm going to make the assumption, agree with the assumption that this is something that this couple do or have done in the past, maybe early days, like they went on a date or something, and that's where they went, you know.
And I like the idea that my character had got the idea from the Smiths and had done all this, and perhaps your character wasn't even aware that this is what happens in the song Cemetery Gates.
Right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so ultimately, because I didn't know what the reference was, I just took it as real, and then tried to sort of bring it back to add that into the game, which I don't know if that landed well, but anyway, that's what I was going for.
No, I think actual Keats and
actual Keats and Yeats.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
I was a bit, so then, yeah, I was a bit lost then, because I was like, yeah, bringing it back to the Lucky Likey, Keats and Yeats, that was that bit in a way. And then I was like, oh shit, where do we go now?
Yeah, I mean, if I had said yes to Lucky Likey, Keats and Yeats, I feel that we'd have been making a promise to the audience that we wouldn't have been able to deliver. I mean, you know, I have a broad understanding of both Keats and Yeats, but it's not information that I can easily access during an improv scene. And then to have a bootleg version of these particular poets, I was like, do you know what? I am going to say no. I am going to shut this down, because I don't know.
Yeah, I think you were right in a way to do that, because I was like, you're right. If I had got us in a position whereby we were having to improvise bootleg Keats and Yeats,
I mean, now you describe it, I sort of think, oh, perhaps that would have been fun. We would have found our way out of it. But I was just like, I feel that we're coming towards the end of the scene. Let's not go down that. That felt like a route that wasn't important.
Yeah, and I think also, like you said earlier, we had 8 minutes. This set it had to be 8 minutes. So I think at this point, I was aware that we were I was aware of that time was ticking. So yeah, I think you was probably right not to go down that little rabbit warren.
I mean, we can just do that in our own time. We don't have to do that in front of an audience if you want to do
You
it.
don't have to inflict that on others. Yeah.
there's bootleg versions. They're like kind of cooler, and only like real fans listen to the bootleg versions of stuff, because generally the quality isn't as good, and so maybe the bootlegs versions are more real.
What were you getting at? What were you trying to do there?
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that I don't want a bootleg version of me and you. I want us to be for real, for who we are.
Okay. Yeah, I want that too.
Yeah.
And that's why I do improv with you. That's like, mic drop. We've solved improv. We can go and do something else now. That was absolutely perfect. It was, I love the way you've taken the sort of the slightly silly, seemingly lightweight stuff, and then you tied it together with the emotional connection in one lovely bow. Mwah. Thank you. Thank you for that moment. That was beautiful.
Oh, thanks, Stu. Yeah, I was like, wow, I don't know what happened there. It was just like a pocket of inspiration right there in the moment. I mean, I guess what was driving me was you'd had this flight of fancy around bootleg and how it meant a lot to fans and all of that. And I was thinking, okay. What about us? Where have we gone? Like the characters, like where's this relationship and that? Where are we in this? So it's again, I come back to the I, the you, the we. So in my efforts to kind of bring it back to us, the relationship, that's what I came up with, because I was just inspired by, again, I just fleetingly mentioned the word bootleg earlier, which I was so pleased that my brain had provided, because I personally love the word bootleg. I think it's just a brilliant word. And of course, bootleg Beatles is like, I love the word anyway. So I was delighted with myself earlier when I'd come up with the word bootleg enemy or whatever. But then it landed in my brain, like the I, the you, the we. Where are we right now, and what do I want? And what the character wanted was like more us time. That's how she started the scene, by saying I want us time. So yeah, it kind of come full circle at that point with the use of that metaphor or whatever.
And also, you made me look really good, because it's like, in some way, maybe I set you up for that with the couple of random sentences about bootlegs, and it's like, oh, here's some stuff, and then you come along and weave it into gold. So thank you for that.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, thanks for. Yeah, you're right. The reference to bootleg was in the preceding line immediately from you there, talking about bootleg. And how fans like bootleg, and I was like, but bootleg's not real. And I think that's what led me to I want real. You're right. That was a combination of me just flinging it around a few minutes ago, you bringing it back, and then me buttoning it. It was really, really cool. And also, I think you helped me here just with your physicality, because just at this moment here, you had lent in to the camera, and when you just physically change that camera angle, you started with an interesting camera angle, and I think you presented an interesting camera angle here, like leaning in conveys intimacy and connection and all of that kind of stuff. So I think I was reading that clearly. I was reading that as well. Yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
I'm worried about you though.
No. You'll be all right.
Promise.
Yeah. As long as we just get some us time.
Yeah. We can get through anything.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll always be like the Smiths, and we'll never be like Solo Morrissey.
Yeah. Let's not be Solo Morrissey.
No, let's be the Smiths.
Yeah.
So talk me through that, because I thought that was fantastic. Again, you were tying it in a ribbon here as well. It was really, really lovely. This just the way you buttoned this section as well, because again, it was like we brought it back to the us, like let's not be the bootleg version, let's just be authentic, let's have more us time kind of thing. And you reiterated that I'm worried about you, and there was a kind of, it landed again and all of that.
Yeah. So if we'd been performing this on a stage, I wonder if we'd have had a blackout with your line about I don't want to be a bootleg version of us. And actually that possibly would have been a good ending to the scene. But I actually quite like this quiet coda because we've slowed right down. It feels like everything that we're saying is hitting, is landing. Um, yeah, and yeah, it feels a nice kind of like we've kind of I don't know, yeah, a little like a sort of coda in music or something.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it felt really natural, like that progression from sort of jokey game kind of stuff to a reconnection. These two characters were reconnecting here towards the end of the scene, and being authentic, like she's saying what she wants, he's saying how he feels. He's reiterating he's worried, and there was a softness to the end, just like there'd been a softness at the beginning, and just theatrically that works. That's just very dynamic in terms of when you're watching a piece of theatre. Yeah, felt really natural. And then let's not be the Smiths, let's not be solo Morrissey. Oh, it was so great, because solo Morrissey's an idiot, so what you're saying is let's not be idiots, right? Let's not be.
Yeah, let's be the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because not only are Morrissey's views post-Smiths problematic, also the music isn't as good either. So yeah, let's be the best version of ourselves, and we can choose to be that. And I think that's up to us.
Yeah, it was great because we were both using metaphor. Like I mean, I've heard this a lot, like from coaches across the world as well. It's like when improvisers get into using metaphor, it's really powerful on stage. It's like really potent in scenes, and I personally think it's maybe a hard thing to teach. So I've never really explicitly tried to teach how to use metaphor. But anytime I've ever watched improv where metaphor has been in play, or I've been in scenes where we've used metaphors to communicate, there's something really special about that. It's clever, I don't mean that in a kind of like up your own arse way. I just mean it's like, yeah, to the height of your intelligence. It's interesting, it's nuanced, it's more complex, it's more interesting to watch and play.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And also I feel that it shows the shared language that the two characters have. They both know that the Smiths are great and Morrissey solo is not, and they're just seeing their life through a filter of shared language.
Yeah, gosh, that's so true. And yeah, how brilliant for this couple. Like, yeah, it keeps them three-dimensional, because every couple has got language, shared reference points. Long-term relationships have that, so it kind of totally makes sense. Like, they understand each other through this metaphor. Yeah, it's really cool. And then you ended the scene in a really interesting way, I think.
Right, shall I get you a drink then?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I really liked that. I don't know what you were thinking at that point, but
yeah, I think I was thinking, okay, we've come to the end, but I don't know, I just didn't know how to get from that to switching the camera off.
Yeah.
And also I sort of wanted to mirror what happened at the beginning, so I came off screen onto screen, and so I thought it'd be a lovely thing to then leave by being on screen and then going off screen. And also you'd come back, we'd had this quite big chat, I should probably want a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's so great. Yeah, I hadn't realized it mirrored the opening, but that's a great button again, that full kind of arc there, I'm just going to stop the share so people can see us. Hello. And I liked it for that reason, that for the domesticity of it was just bob on. Like, it's like, I love that thought process that you had. It's like, what would well, they'd have a cup of tea, surely. And when you said it, I was like, yeah, that is so, it's like, that's just grounded in truth, like you'd have a cup of tea, that's what you do. So I thought it was really, although I understood the mechanics, like I knew what you were doing mechanically, like I have to find a way of editing this scene and turning my camera off. Like I knew that that's what was going on, but actually, it was naturalistic as well. So yeah, great. Yay.
Yay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was, it was great. Look, so much, again, like so much thought processes goes into a fleeting moment, like, and you're not even, a lot of the time, you're not even aware of those thought processes until you sit back and analyze it. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And it's interesting to find out what's going on in the other person's mind, especially if there's nothing going on in the other person's mind. Because I never, when I'm performing with you, I never like think, Emma, she's got nothing. I always think you've got something. You always do as well. You might think you've got nothing, but you always do have something.
Yeah.
And also, if we don't have anything, we'll just sit in it and we'll be comfortable in that silence. So that's also fine.
Yeah, I think that's a trust thing, isn't it? It's like I have the same. I think the same as well. I always think, oh, Stu will have something.
Eventually, if we wait long enough.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like trusting that yourself. You have to trust yourself that you've got this, but you have to trust your partner that they've got it as well. And if neither of you have it, you have to trust that you can sit in it.
And something will arise.
Yeah, always does. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Do you want a drink then?